Good morning. Good morning. Michael? Michael? Good morning. I just don't know if it's on. Is he right there? Oh, okay. Good morning. All good? Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Hall. My name is Su-Ling Ching, and it is my honor to be the President and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. On behalf of Mayor Sutcliffe, the Ottawa Board of Trade, and the Ottawa Business Journal, welcome to the Mayor's Breakfast, another sold-out event. We're so happy to be joined this morning by my co-presenter, Mr. Michael Curran, who is the President and Publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal, our premier business media outlet. We hope you had a wonderful summer and you are refreshed and ready for a productive and busy fall season in the Ottawa business community. Yes? We are thrilled to be gathered here, over 200 of us in the City Hall in downtown Ottawa. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We honor the peoples and land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. I want to say thank you first to the team here at City Hall for hosting us and working with us to make sure that everyone is comfortable. Thank you all for being here this morning and investing your time and your energy in the growth of our business community and the building of our city. We hope that you are making some great connections, and by the level of noise I heard in the breakfast, you are, and that you find today's information and insights very valuable. I want to make a special welcome to the leaders of the Ottawa Board of Trade. If you could just hold your appreciation for a moment, and I want to recognize our board chair, Brendan McGinty of Strategies 360. Brendan will stand. Ian Sherman, our past chair of Relationship Capital. Board members Aaron Benjamin from the Canadian Live Music Association. Robert Rayon of CCSR Advisory Services. Ruby Williams of Deloitte, Devinder Chowdhury of Ayana Restaurant Collective, and Riaz Sidi of Sidi.io, and Rick Chase of Canada Life. Could I have each of you stand so that we can show our appreciation? We just want to show our appreciation for your steadfast leadership and your dedication to our business community. I would like to acknowledge the OBOT ambassadors. So this morning you met Linda McCallum and Dr. Christina Romulus at the registration, so they helped to welcome you and got you in here for breakfast. And also John Nelson and Megan Connolly. Please connect with our OBOT ambassadors if you're interested in becoming a member or learning more about how to maximize your membership. Thank you to all of our members and volunteers for joining us this morning and ensuring that Ottawa has a strong voice of business. And finally, welcome to our honored guest this morning, Pierre Dorion, General Manager of the Ottawa Senators and my very new best friend. So thank you for being here this morning. We're looking forward to your conversation. Just a few words about the Board of Trade. As you know, we are a key advocate for economic growth in our nation's capital, and we are passionate about cultivating a thriving, world-class business community, one that drives affordable, inclusive, and sustainable city building. So it's to that end that we promote policies and programs that create a competitive business environment. We share relevant information and thought leadership opportunities, and we can convene and engage with stakeholders at every level of government on your behalf. Over the summer months, we worked with our partners at the Ottawa Business Journal to co-host our 26th annual 40 Under 40 Awards Gala, recognizing Ottawa's best young leaders. And I can tell you, if you were in that room of 600 or 700 people, I forget, it was a wonderful evening. We hosted our annual golf tournament, networking with over 260 business leaders. And between those two events, our business community donated over $26,000 to our friends at Junior Achievement Ottawa, investing in our next generation of entrepreneurs. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who was involved in that for supporting JA Ottawa. And also to our friends at Ottawa Network for Education for their continued good work in our local schools with JA and many other programs. Nobody can hear me? Thank you. Did you hear any of that? Okay. All right, thank you. And many other programs like Breakfast for Kids, financial literacy, and business mentorship. We are with you. The Board of Trade continued its policy work in partnership with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, releasing 2 briefings, Home Stretched, outlining recommendations on tackling Ontario's housing affordability crisis, and The Power of the Purchase Order, with 23 recommendations on how to rethink procurement as it pertains to Ontario's $30 billion budget to unlock better outcomes for our economy, our environment, our healthcare, and small businesses. We launched our latest edition of Capital Magazine. This tool is designed for you, the leaders in our business community, to share the great things that are happening in our region, highlighting the businesses, the people, and the opportunities that make up our wonderful Ottawa story. All of our members received copies, and we have some to share with our guests here today, and the content can be found at capitalmag.ca. Thank you to our friends at TAG Gordon Group for co-publishing this important piece with us, and to all the businesses and writers who contributed and made it possible. The winter edition is underway if you would like to be involved, and you can check out our newsletter for details. We also launched a new offering, the OBOT Pillar Partners. This is an elevated way for members to contribute to our advocacy and economic development work and further strengthen the voice of business during these challenging times. We are very grateful to our inaugural partners, including Meridian Credit Union, Colonnade Bridgeport, the National Capital Commission, Quad Real Property Group, and Enbridge Gas. Thank you for your continued support on behalf of our business community. We welcome new members as we expand our efforts to create a competitive business environment and fine-tune our attention on key objectives like downtown Ottawa, small business support, and advancing our high-growth sectors. Finally, work continues on our priority file, downtown Ottawa. We are working with local stakeholders, governments, urban experts to develop a recovery strategy that includes recommendations for every level of government and you, our business community, to work together on a roadmap for transformation. We've deemed this an urgent matter and are on track to share our framework in the coming weeks. As you know, what happens downtown has a direct and immediate impact on every business, citizen, and every visitor. Without a focused plan, our current trajectory will negatively impact our tax base and services. Further, the next version of our downtown has many exciting opportunities to create more diversity, resilience, and vibrancy in our core. So everyone in our region has a stake in what happens next in downtown Ottawa, and we are very grateful to all of our passionate business leaders and volunteers who have been working with us on this file. Moving forward, we invite all Ottawa businesses to join us as members and partners so we can better support our mayor and council and all of our elected officials on policies and programs that leverage the great work of the private sector to create community prosperity for all. It is the work of the Board of Trade, designed for you and working with you. As we kick off this morning's breakfast, let's recognize the great organizations that support the speaker series. Thank you so much to our lead sponsor, Hydro Ottawa, Algonquin College, our global partner, Casino Lac Limi, Commissionaires, Enbridge, Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, RBC, the Westin Ottawa, Zen Books, our global partner Oakwood, our AV sponsor Edelman, our speaker gift sponsor Eamon Harden, our breakfast sponsor Collège La Cité, and our coffee sponsor Capital Office. Can I have a big round of applause for all of these sponsors? It is my pleasure now to welcome to the podium Mark Fernandez from Hibu, which is a division of Hydro Ottawa. Hibu Networks is an affiliate of Hydro Ottawa Holdings, providing internet and connectivity services to businesses in the Ottawa-Gatineau region. Mark?
Thank you, Sue. Can you hear me back up there? Okay, excellent. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, councillors, our distinguished guest, Pierre Duran, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Fernandez, and I'm the Executive Vice President of Hibu Networks. By the way, that's pronounced Hibu Networks, and the Chief Information Officer of Hydro Ottawa. Now, I understand that I stand between you and our star attraction, Pierre here, so I'm going to keep this brief. As one of the co-sponsors of the Mayor's Breakfast, it's an honor to stand before you today and introduce you to a new business affiliate in the Hydro Ottawa portfolio. Today is an important milestone in our history, the launch of Hibu Networks, the first municipally owned internet service provider in the Ottawa-Gatineau region, owned by Hydro Ottawa Holdings. As many of you know, high-speed connectivity is at the heart of how we live and transact today. With the advent of 5G, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a number of new social and online technologies, our appetite for data and ubiquitous connectivity continues to grow as we digitize our organizations. At Hibu, our vision is to be a catalyst for the region's global leadership in the digital economy of the future and to bridge the digital divide in our communities. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Hibu is ready to serve the B2B space in the Ottawa-Gatineau region by offering enterprise-grade connectivity and internet services across a variety of businesses. Our team here is local. In fact, they're up there at the back, and is a part of our community. We live, play, and work here, and we believe that enables us to bring a unique perspective in the way we serve our customers and our partners. So if you're wondering about the name Hibu, by the way, it's spelled H-I-B-O-O. Hibu is a play on the French word Hibu that means owl, and owl is a bird that is synonymous with intelligence and wisdom. It can see through the dark, much like our dark fiber, which is now lit. The two O's at the end of Hibu also represent our fiber optic loop that covers all of the city and the Ottawa-Gatineau region that we serve. In conclusion, I've witnessed both the challenges and the opportunities that businesses and public entities face as they build their future in a digital economy. Today, I see even more opportunities for residents in our businesses to flourish than ever before. From startups to government agencies, nonprofits, healthcare, and higher education, and from students to families. The best is truly yet to come, and Hibu is ready. The network is lit to connect our region to the future. We're going to play a short video for you momentarily to introduce you to Hibu. But in the meanwhile, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd encourage you to visit our website at hibunetworks.com. Thank you so much.
A new dawn has arrived. The connectivity needs of the region are not overlooked. Our region's state-of-the-art, next-generation secure network is here. The owl has landed. Hibu Networks. Our region's municipally owned fiber network. Hibu stands for intelligence, trust, vision, simplicity, and reliability. Your neighbors. We are of your community, for your community. Service, always. We're always listening. It's in our nature. Reliable connectivity for a customer experience that's second to none. Business on your terms, because it should be uncomplicated. Join the fiber revolution.
Thank you, Mark, and to your team for that great work and presentation. And I apologize for my misstep. And just a heads up, I'll probably apologize about 10 more times. But we look forward to the work that you're doing in Ottawa, and we really appreciate you being here today. It is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium our host this morning, Mayor Mark Sutcliffe. Thank you.
Thank you, Su-Ling. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être ici ce matin. I wanted to welcome my colleagues from Ottawa City Council who are here today. Ralston King, Clark Kelly, Wilson Lowe, and Catherine Kitts. Thank you for being here. And yesterday, as some of you may have heard, we passed the important budget direction for the 2024 budget with a proposed tax increase of 2.5%. I think it's very important that at this time of rising inflation and with fears of a recession and costs rising for Ottawa families, that we keep taxes as low as possible for the residents of Ottawa. So that was an important step, just the beginning of the budget process. The final budget will be before us in December. So just wanted to share that update with you. For many years, I've actually wanted to have an in-depth conversation with Pierre Dorion. I interviewed him a couple times as a journalist, but I never really had, a long, meaningful conversation with him. I've been fascinated by his career and the work that he does, the decisions he makes, the strategies that he employs as the general manager of our hockey team in a very high-profile leadership role. So I never had that chance, so I had to come up with a plan for how we were going to have that conversation. So step one, I had to run for mayor. And then step two, I had to convince Michael Andlauer to buy the Ottawa Senators. Step three, ask Michael Andlauer to be the guest at the mayor's breakfast in September. Step four, get the NHL to slow down the paperwork for the sale of the team just long enough that Michael had to postpone his appearance with us. And then step five, ask Pierre to jump in for him. So here we are today. Alors, je voudrais prendre un moment pour vous remercier tous d'être venus aujourd'hui et m'excuser de ne pas avoir avec nous l'invité prévu. Unfortunately, we don't have our original planned guest for this morning, but I think we can all agree we have an excellent alternative. And good news, Michael Andlauer has agreed to be our guest at another edition of the Mayor's Breakfast this fall. So perhaps in October or November, he will be joining us here at Ottawa City Hall. So let me just say a few words about Pierre before we start our conversation. Pierre was born in Ottawa, like me, and grew up in Orleans, like Catherine. And his father, Pierre Sr., worked in professional hockey. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then Pierre became a scout himself and worked with a couple of other teams before he joined the Senators. First as a scout, and then in a number of different roles before he became the general manager of the Senators in 2016. And by the way, of the 32 general managers in the NHL right now, if you were to rank them in terms of how long they've been serving with their current team, Pierre would be 7th out of 32 on that list. So he's been in the role for a long time. He is a great leader for the Senators and a great leader in our community. Please join me in welcoming Pierre Dorion.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. Thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you stepped in at the last minute to do this. We're very, very grateful, but I am just as excited about this conversation as I would have been about the other one. So thank you. Thank you for doing it.
And thank you for the kind words.
So, and by the way, it's great to have the Ottawa Senators here in downtown Ottawa. I'm just saying. Just saying. So you are Pierre Jr., actually, right?
Yes, I am.
So tell me about your dad and his role in hockey, and then how that kind of rubbed off on you and led to you launching a career in hockey yourself.
My father was always involved in sports. For some of you that would not know, he worked for the Rough Riders, now the Red Blacks, obviously, as a statistician for a little while for the CFL, but he was involved in hockey. He coached the Vanier, what were they called back then, the 72s, I believe, with a gentleman by the name of Lorne Woods. He coached the Gloucester Rangers, Tier 2. Then he became a scout for Central Scouting. He was their head scout, and before he passed away, he was the head scout for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Right. But he passed away at a young age, and you were still a young adult when he died, right?
Yeah, it was 3 weeks of being 50, and I was 22 years old at the time, or about to turn 22. It was, I lost my hero at that point in time. It was something very difficult for me and very difficult for our family. But I was fortunate enough that from probably my 16th to 22nd year, we were very, very close. And, I was fortunate enough to travel with him at times and go scouting with him. And, we both love sports, and we got to spend a lot of time together, which I think gave me a great foundation to be what I've become today.
And did you ever have any doubt that you wanted to work in sports? And because I understand you told your mom you wanted to be a scout at one point, and she wasn't crazy about the idea. Is that right?
No, my mother wasn't too crazy about the idea, because as a scout, you're gone pretty much 200 to 250 nights of the year. You're not at home, and I think she wanted to have grandkids one day, and it's tough to find someone that will accept that lifestyle. I was fortunate enough to find someone at that point in time, but she didn't want me to live that lifestyle, but I think she's pretty proud of me now.
I'm sure she is. And your dad obviously would be too, it goes without saying. But what drew you to that? What made you so interested in that side of sports in particular, the scouting side?
Well, you're not really known. You do a lot of the groundwork. You're the one that finds the players, you're the one that builds that foundation for the team, and I always found that very attractive. You're at that point in time, when I saw what my father was doing, is you're scouting 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and you see them when they're so young. I remember when I was, I forget the exact age, I was 9 or 10, I went and saw Steve Yzerman play for the Nepean Raiders, and I remember he had long hair. I always tell Steve the story. He had really long hair, and he was by far the best player on the ice, and you could tell that he was going to be a star one day in the NHL. And from a very young age, I was very attracted to the fact that, you're not coaching a team, you're not making the trades, but you're getting all these assets, and you're getting all these players that are going to help a team win, and I found that very attractive. Being able to find that rare gem is something that excited me. I'll always remember when we took Eric Carlson. I've told this story many times. We moved from 18 to 15, and Brian Murray at the time, who was one of the best humans anyone will ever meet, I put him in the category with my father as my two heroes. And I hope they're both watching down on us today and proud of what we're doing here. He turned to me and goes, "Pierre, he's 5'10" and 159 pounds. And Brian goes to me, he goes, "How long do you want to work for me?" And I goes, "After this pick, I'll work for you a long time." So
good call. Yeah.
So it was just how exciting it gets to take these young players, and you see them mature and become really good NHL players down the road.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just, we'll talk more about hockey, obviously, but tell me more about growing up in Orleans, and you've spent most of your life here in Ottawa. You've traveled a lot, obviously, but how the city has changed in we're about the same age. I'm a bit older than you, so like in our
you look better though.
In our lifetimes, the city has changed a lot.
Oh, yeah, I remember as a kid, and from those of you in the East End, Ennis Road used to be where I lived. Used to be a dirt road, and to where it's become now. And you see, I'm from Orleans. Very proud to be from Orleans. Very proud to be City of Ottawa, but. And everywhere I go in the world, I'm so proud of telling people where I'm from. The city has changed drastically, and all for the best. I remember when I was a kid, It was a thrill to go from where I lived in Orleans to the McDonald's on Montreal Road, and now there's about 7 of them in Orleans. So, no, I think the city's grown great. I love being here. You know, I went to Ottawa U, went to Gardner High School. It's just so proud of being from here and always representing the city, and I'm fortunate enough to do it in a capacity that a lot of people through the world, through the sports world, see it, and I'm so proud of and honored to be the general manager of the Ottawa Senators, even though it's 8 years into it now.
And it's amazing that you get to do this job in your hometown, because a lot of people in professional sports, they have an adopted hometown, or they go somewhere else. I don't know how many of the other general managers are being the general manager of their team in the city they were born in. I don't think it's many.
No, I don't think there's many in the league. I think there's maybe just a few beside me, and you know, not being a pro player on top of that, I think it's something that I cherish very much. Every day I get to work, I'm thankful when I walk into CTC how it is a privilege to be the general manager in my hometown.
And there was no team when you and I were kids, right? So even that part of the story is kind of interesting. If you had, when you aspired to work in hockey, your expectation would have been that you would have been going to Montreal or Toronto or Pittsburgh or wherever, and then all of a sudden we get this team in Ottawa, and you're able to have, and it just shows again how the city has changed and grown.
No, exactly. I always remember when we'd go on family trips, you know, where the Citizen building was pretty much the end of the city, and now you got to go way beyond that to consider it the end of the city. But yes, obviously, as a kid growing up, I was a big Montreal Canadian fan. When my father went to Toronto, I became a big Toronto fan at that point in time.
So you mentioned Brian Murray. Tell me more about your relationship with him and what you learned from him.
Well, to me, Brian Murray was one of my mentors in life. It's how Brian did things. Brian never got mad at me. He always knew if I did something wrong, it was in a conversation. It was always in a calm conversation. And people saw on TV the fiery Brian Murray, but how he managed people, I learned so much from it. It was always, you know, why are you doing this, Pierre? You know, explain to me. And it was always in a way where you responded to him. And it's how I think I developed to be a leader, and how I took some things from him. And to me, you know, that's why he was one of my mentors, because he was great at manipulating things. He can't be around for that long, and sometimes he manipulated things in his way. But he asked questions. He got people to come on board, and I hope, you know, I'll never be Brian Murray. There's no chance of that ever happening. But he gave me a lot to be the leader that I am today. And
can you describe the impact and the legacy that he left? Because I feel like, you know, that was when he played a huge role, I think, in establishing the team as a contender, as a competitive team, and establishing the team as a real presence in this community. He brought a lot of stability at a time when there was a lot of change happening off the ice with the Senators. So I think he played an essential role in all of that.
No, he played a huge role in that, an essential role, and I think the team having the stability it will always have. He just knew how to deal with people. He knew when to make the right trade. He knew to bring the right personnel in. You know, I was telling him one of his greatest trades was trading for Craig Anderson, and that brought stability to the team for years and years to come. So he just had a knack about him, how to do the job, and I'll never be as good as he'll ever be, and I'm not afraid to deny that. But it was just the way how he approached things, and how much he cared, and how much he wanted to win.
So let's talk about the role of being the general manager of a National Hockey League team. It's a high-profile role. You have all these people scrutinizing and second-guessing your decisions. You have to deal with the media. I can't imagine what that's like. So tell me, like, what's the experience? How do you feel about the role, and what's the job like? Especially, you know, in comparison to what you used to do before, which, as you said, was fun, rewarding work, but a lot less profile and scrutiny, right?
I got to be honest, I love it. The good and the bad. I've learned over the years And, you know, when you gather experience on this job and you're more in a high profile, I don't really get too high and I don't really get too low. I've just learned to stay pretty much status quo. I will admit, and maybe I'm too honest at times, I was really happy this year when we signed Tarasenko. Maybe had a few too beers, but for the most part,
That was a night to celebrate?
yeah,
for
it was
sure?
a night
Yeah,
to
okay,
celebrate.
Good to know.
Actually opened up a bottle of champagne. My better half, she was going on vacation. I said, well, you're going on vacation. We signed Tarasenko. Let's open a bottle of champagne. But I've learned over the years that as long as the fans care about the team, and what's great about Ottawa, and I've talked to this to other GMs, which I'm not going to name in Canadian cities, people love the Senators. People love what we're doing. Yesterday, I just went to the beer store. I was on my way home, and
Another celebration coming? Yeah.
no celebration. I needed to return empty wine bottles, and not that I should say I went to Starbucks but
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah.
And just a fan goes, Pierre, I'm so excited for this year. Appreciate what you're doing. We're seeing everything come together, and that makes you feel great. That's one time where you can be really happy about things. But when things aren't going as well, I don't get too low, because I knew there was always an ultimate goal. In this job, you have to know that you're doing a lot of times, you're doing things for the long term and for the long-term benefit. And sometimes the short-term benefits out of these aren't fun. And going through a rebuild, I knew that there'd be some tough times, but now we're seeing the team that we've put together. And, you know, what was great, my first year on the job, we went to the conference finals. We were second overtime, almost went to the end. I'll admit it, I thought, this is easy. I realized after, not that quite easy. And we sat down, I just said, I don't want to be on a team that every year we're going to make it one year, we're going to lose the next year, or not, like make the playoffs one year, miss the playoffs the next year by 4 points, next year make it, miss it 2 years in a row. I didn't want to be part of that. And we were able to sell the rebuild, and it hasn't been fun, and at times it's painful, but I knew for the long term. Just an example of that is that last year, maybe we could have made a trade, given a really good young player, and instead of being 6 points out of the playoffs, been 2 points out of the playoffs. And maybe the run would have been longer, but at the end of the day, when we know we're going to win, in a very short time, we feel that player is going to help us. And sometimes that's difficult about the job. But you're doing the right thing for the long-term success of the team. And sometimes that can be difficult, but that's the job. That's what you sign up for. And as much as I love every part of the job, I always tell, it's my fiance now, it's a 32-minute drive from CTC back home. And when we lose the first 28 minutes, I don't say much. In the last 4, I say, how was your day? And we keep talking. But that's the job. And I'm fortunate enough that I do something that I love, I have passion for. And as I said previously, every day that I walk into CTC, I feel very fortunate to be the general manager of my hometown in a city that I love and that I'm so proud to talk about when I'm around the world.
That's amazing. But you're right. One of the challenges of being the general manager in a Canadian city, and here we're in a city where this is the only sports franchise in the 4 big professional leagues. We also have the Red Blacks and the 67s, and I'm a fan of both teams. But there are other cities in Canada. Toronto has the Blue Jays and the Raptors. Like in Ottawa, it's the Senators, and so for you, there's a lot of scrutiny, a lot of expectations. But the only thing worse than that would be people not caring, right? And being in a place where you go somewhere and nobody recognizes you, and nobody has any interest in the team. So,
and that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, this is the preferred scenario. Right?
Everywhere you go, people are so nice. That's what people are so nice. They come up to you and they they see what you're doing, and we got very knowledgeable fans in the city, and they understand what we're doing. At the first part of the rebuild, they might not have understood what we're trying to do, but I think now they get it, and now they see that we're going to be a team that once we get into the playoffs, we're going to be in playoffs for the next 7, 8, 9 years, and signing our young core for such long-term contracts, and we feel is good contracts, and being smart about it is all things that we've, that was all part of the plan. And we always knew, at some point in time, when we feel that we're ready to win, we're going to have to add a few free agents that we've been able to do, or keep some older guys that are going to help us, in that transition stage. And that's what I think this year we're so excited about. They always say, I found out one time in a meeting that they told me, you got to sell hope. And sometimes it was a bit more difficult because, you had young players that had to learn the ropes, but now, we are at a point where we feel there's a lot of hope for many, many years to come for this team.
So you've talked about this rebuild. Where would you say, in the continuum and the progression, where are we today, and what are your expectations for this year?
Now I can say I know I got in a lot of trouble when I said a few years ago the rebuild was over. Not exactly what I wanted to say, but sometimes you get caught off. But to me, all the pieces are in place now. Most of our young core, except for maybe one, is signed long-term. And we're working on that one hard. We'd like to see him here next week when we open camp. We feel we're almost there. We're almost there. I see a lot of good things for this team, not just this year, for many years to come. I think it's exciting. And not that I want to talk about Michael, because I can only consult with him through the agreement, and I'm sure he's going to be able to close in the next few days. But the excitement that he's going to bring in as a new owner who really wants to win. It was great meeting all the 7 groups, but Michael was the one where hockey and the Ottawa Senators winning was, you could tell, was a priority for him. And that, for a general manager, a coach, our players, I think really bodes well, and it bodes well for our fans, it bodes well for the organization, what he's going to be able to bring to the table. And, people are talking playoffs. I don't want to make bold predictions. I'd like to see our team play through camp. A lot of teams in the East have gotten better, but I feel the way we finished last year, the improvements that we've made to our goaltending. People don't talk about the big trade we made last year, Jacob Chikrin, and adding Tarasenko, having our guys signed up, hopefully, knock on wood, no major injuries this year. I think the fans will be really happy about what we bring to the table and how good we're going to be, how competitive we're going to be. And just, sorry for the long-winded answer, I think Jake Sanderson's resumed it really good when we signed him. Is that he signed here because he knows we're going to win, and I think that's going to be sooner than later.
Fantastic. So my experience with Michael Andlauer, I met the 6 or 7 groups that were bidding for the Senators as well, and I had the same impression of Michael Andlauer in that first meeting, that his, obviously there's, for any of the prospective owners, there's the hockey side and the business side, and included in the business side is potentially a real estate scenario. Of all of the groups I met with, he was the one who was hockey first, and his goal was to buy a team and win the Stanley Cup, and that's the impression I got from him in the very first meeting. So I'm very excited about where the team is going on the ice as a result of that. But can you describe? I know he's there, and you consult with him because he is about to become the owner, but he is not technically the owner yet. But it's been a good working relationship so far? It's
been a great working relationship so far. From the first meeting we had, obviously, when we presented to him, every group I spoke, whether it was an hour and a half to just a bit more, 2 hours with him, it almost got to 3 hours presentation hockey. The feeling that we got, and I think how much he cared about the Senators being a good team, and how he's come in. I know Aaron Crow's here, and myself, Chris Phillips, and a few of other people have had the chance to engage with him, and you can tell the passion that he brings, and I think how great he's going to be not just for the city, for our fans, for the organization, for everything that he'll bring to the table. I think we're in a really good spot as an organization.
And there is a lot of excitement, I can tell you. When I go around the city, people are very, very excited about the Senators this year. So we have to manage expectations, of course, but there's a lot of buzz. And can we dig a little deeper into the relationship between the Senators and the community? Because you see that as the general manager of the team, and it is, you know, it's not something that you understand until you have a team like the Senators in your community. And as I said, when I was growing up, we didn't have this. And now we do, and you can see all of the benefits, especially now that we're 30 years into this. You see all the benefits that it brings from an economic development perspective, tourism, community building, support for young kids. You know, there's just so many different ways that a professional sports franchise can have an impact on a community.
No, I think from top to bottom, all the where you can affect people in a positive way. But to me, when I see our players give back, when I saw Brady Tkachuk sign in with the Boys and Girls Club, when you see some players when they go to the CHIO visit, and you see video after of those kids, the spark in their eyes. When you see just before every game, we have a season seat holder come and meet a player and they shake their hands. Sometimes I go by in the hallway and the excitement it generates, just getting a chance to meet one of the players. I think and it's the effect you have on people, the positive effect that you have on people. It's just, even a person like me, and I'm not very important compared to our players. Our players are the most important thing. When I have a daughter that's a Carleton, and I used to go do the groceries with her, and she'd get mad at me when I got to be GM because I'd stop and talk with everyone, because I knew, you know, doing the groceries would take 30 minutes and it'd take about an hour more, because I'd stop and talk with everyone. And because people were excited to talk about the Sens and meeting you, and it's just the way I was, and that's one of the things that my dad taught me. I always remember going to at the time it was a Rough Rider game, and he was just Chief Scout of the Leafs, and I wanted to get in the stands and watch the game, and people would stop him, and he'd stop and talk to everyone, whether it was 2 or 5 minutes. He'd talk to everyone, and back then we didn't have, the Sens weren't here, and the Leafs were, you know, they'd recognize him as a Chief Scout, and I said, Dad, why are you talking to people? Let's go and watch the game. He goes, son, you know what? It's, you have a responsibility, and I have a responsibility to talk to these people. And it's the way I hope our players are in the community. It's just, when I meet someone, I always try to say hi, and I've always tried to say that to our players. You know, I rarely address the team. I'll address the team at training camp, and it's one of the things I say, you have a responsibility to engage with our fans, with the people, with the community, give back. You know, later on, I think in a few months, they'll see something that I've done as far as giving back, but give back if you can. And I think you touch people, and I think we all grow as a community because of it. And hopefully the Senators have done in the past, but we can be even better moving forward.
Absolutely. No, it's huge. So are you hinting that you're planning something in terms of a community involvement for yourself? You don't have to tell us anything you don't want to, but
there's going to be I donated money to Ottawa U, and I'm an alumni of Ottawa U, for a scholarship for women's sports. I'm a big believer. It's got to be announced later. I'm a big believer. You know, a lot of guys get a chance to do sports, but I just donated some money, and I thought it was very important. You know, we have the women's professional hockey league coming here to Ottawa. We're one of 3 cities. I think that's fantastic. I hope the community gets behind it. I just feel that a lot of men get the chance to do sports, and when I was approached by Ottawa U, and I think it'll be announced in the next few months or whatever.
I think it just got announced right now.
Yeah, but I just felt it's something that I'm fortunate, so I wanted to give something to the community, so at least they can remember me in somewhat of a positive way.
Help to take the edge off if somebody doesn't like one of your trades. Yeah. So,
And that happens quite a bit.
Yeah, but no, that's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. And you know what you're talking about, I think, is so important. This is something I think about all the time, is just the kinds of opportunities people like you and I have had in our lives. You know, we're born at a certain time, you know, in a prosperous and peaceful place in the world, and we're men and we're white men, and we get certain advantages, and so for you to do that, I think, is really remarkable.
Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, I hear lots of buzz about the women's professional hockey team too. And I've told a few people, my kids were asking me about it, which I think is a really positive sign that there's interest and energy about having professional women's sports in our city.
Yeah, and I'll definitely attend some games. Like, I enjoy watching women's sports, whether it's, you know, it's tennis, golf, volleyball, hockey. I enjoy it, and, you know, they're athletic, they're good. It's always great caliber, so I just wanted to find a way to support it. And I was very happy to hear that Ottawa was one of the franchises that got a franchise for the new Women's Pro Hockey League.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a bit about how you make decisions and how you evaluate players, because that's a big part of what you do, and it's a big part of what the entrepreneurs and CEOs in our audience do every day. And I'm very curious about, you know, if you follow a decision-making process, or how you maybe we can talk about these two things separately: decisions and then evaluating talent.
Decision's very simple. When I first got to be, whether it was the chief scout, I'm not a micromanager. I hire people, I let them do their jobs. I ask questions. I'm big on communication within my group. Only thing that bothers me are leaks, because I feel that you make your organization weaker. It's like when we made the big Chikrin trade last year, no one knew that we were still in it, because I knew there were still two other teams in it, and I didn't want them to know what was going on, because they would have maybe offered more and we wouldn't have got them. But how I work is I ask questions, I let people do their job, I follow up. When I feel you're not loyal to the organization, not just me, to the organization, sometimes I feel you got to move on. You're in a position, I always feel as a leader, and I've read books, I've met people, is that you have an obligation to make sure your organization runs smoothly. When you have someone that hurts that organization or doesn't help you be at your best, you've got to work with them to make them better, and if they don't want to work to be better, well, it's time to move on. And that's how I go about my business. And, you know, sometimes I do a lot of contract negotiation, and a lot of times, you know, I've read that, you know, you got to start low and work your way. But sometimes with certain agents, you got to remember that if you start really low, you're going to affect the player's psyche. And he thinks that low. Like when we did the Jake Sanderson deal, we ended up signing just over 8. I started in the 7s. They went to 8, and we got it done in a matter of 2 weeks. And I knew it was important, because if you know the history, just an example, you do your homework, is that he just switched agents, and I knew he was sensitive about something, which I didn't really know because the player didn't want to tell me, but I knew that there was a little bit of history there that I couldn't go really low with an initial number, but I knew what the number was going to be at the end and work about it. And that's how we do contract negotiations with my staff. That's how I am. I'm always an open book, and I tell that to my staff. This is why I'm starting at this number in negotiation. This is why we're going to go after this player. I'm going to offer player X, but I really want player Y in a trade. But I'm always very open with my staff. I believe that, you know, whether we're not a very big staff, 5 people, 7 people, I include people in the conversation. I want your input. And at the same time, I think it validates them. And when you're not a big group, you need to validate people because they need to work hard. And we're not a big group on our hockey side. And it's not very, I went to Ottawa, you took some classes, but nothing prepares you, I'm sure, for being mayor, for being a general manager. Nothing prepares you for these types of decisions. And I always tell people that, yes, I'm a general manager, but really my real job is I'm a psychologist. That's whether it's the coach, owners, board, whomever, a lot of your time is just talking to people, managing people, trying to get the best out of them. And that's the process I go through. It's not a big secret. And that's how I'm a leader. You know, I just try to get people to do their best, but I tell people, you know, I don't think you're doing your best. Not in a way, I don't think you're doing your best. I know you can be better. You know, and that's how you get the best out of people. And being a really small staff, it's worked well for us to, you know, whether it's drafting, whether it's development, whether it's coaching, whether it's me. You know, I ask my employees for feedback. Sometimes I don't like it, but at the same time, I think it makes you the best leader. And as far as evaluating players, second part of your question, I don't think you're born with it. I think you learn from it. My dad wanted me to learn from how to evaluating people, and that's how I got to evaluate players. I think in this day and age, obviously hockey sense is important, but in every field, I was tell our scouts, when we were going to make a trade, I always check the person's, if you know it, inner drive. People that want to push themselves to be better. And I'm not going to name names, but I know some of the signings that we've made lately, that was part of it. And when we were starting the rebuild, some of the trades we made that people were shaking their heads at, I remember I've got it in emails, sending it to my boss at that point in time. People will question this trade, but we're molding our players to be great people, hard workers. So when they're ready to take over, it's natural for them. So that's a bit how I do things. I like people that push themselves. I like people with inner drive. I'm there fairly early when I'm in the office, and I'm there fairly, not as early and late as Erin Crow. She's here. She works way harder than me. But I try to lead by example. I put in long hours because I love it, but I want to show everyone that I will put in the time if you put in the time too.
I find that all fascinating, just the fact that you touched on the psychology, because I think ultimately that's what it's all about with everything, right? When you're negotiating with somebody, when you're trying to inspire them to perform better in sports or in a workplace, it's all about what's their story, what's affecting them, what's holding them back, those kinds of things, right? So
yeah.
That's it. I think it's all about that.
And a lot of times, general managers, we talk with agents, and I had advice one time from someone, and you think it's you're going against each other, your adversaries, but you're actually partners. You're both trying to make the player happy with the contract he's about to sign. He wants to make the player happy. We want to have the player happy, and that's the way when I do negotiations, for the most part, that's the way they are.
So, last question: why are you excited about the team for this year? What in particular makes you excited in terms of the players you have, or the stage of their career, or just what's going on right now? What, as you know, I know why fans are excited, but as somebody who's a lot closer to it, why are you excited?
There's so many answers I can give you on this one. I'm going to just try to be. The reason I'm excited is I know our young core has brought their game to the next level. I just see a Brady come in, and what he's telling our coaching staff, what he's telling me, okay, now we're ready to get to that next level. What Tim Stutzel is going to be in this league, what Jake Sanderson's going to be in this league. I think we finally have a team, whether you want to say it on paper or not, that is a really good hockey team. You know, it's signing Korpisalo, getting Tarasenko, Claude Giroux last year, which was almost a gift from above. You know, him joining us, a local kid coming back home, you know, has married a girl from here. It's just all these things that I think there's so many things that are going to be positive this year that I'm just excited. I've wanted this.
By the Ottawa branch of the National Association of Federal Retirees, protecting federal pensions and benefits since 1963. Visit federalretirees.ca to learn more.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
I just think everything about it. I think it's the hardest sport in the world. You can see it in the players. You can see it in their eyes as they come off the ice, and just how intense of a battle it is.
1, 2, 3, Everything happens so fast out there. I guess it is like war sometimes.
Waking up at 6 a.m. 4 times a week to come into practice, it can weigh on you.